Did you see the story about the transgender?
Sure did. I'm glad you brought this
I haven't
up.
seen it. Please
So
explain, Chin.
This is actually a high school girl, who's going through the process of taking testosterone to change into a boy. And then because of the rules in that school, your birth certificate, if you're a girl on your birth certificate, then you have to be in girls, sports, yeah. And if you're a guy, you're in guy sports. So she has no choice. He has no choice but to wrestle girls because of his birth certificate.
He's like 56-0.
Yeah,
he's beaten
sweeping.
everybody.
See, but
because it's a woman.
I know what's going on.
It's a woman
here.
taking testosterone.
It's not her. It's
not her fault. She wants to compete with the boys, but the only way he can wrestle is with the girls.
Yep.
It's more of a flaw in the system than you can be as mad as you want at him, but he's like, "Fuck, man! If I want to wrestle, this is all I can do."
I still think it's a female on testosterone at this stage, at 17 years old. It's a female taking testosterone, competing with other females, and that makes it very difficult for the other women to compete. So in my opinion, I don't think she should be allowed to. I don't think she'd be allowed to.
So what should she be allowed to do? Not wrestle at all?
Unfortunately, if you are going to, again, it goes back to personal responsibility. Unfortunately, if this is something you want to do, if you want to be transgender, and by the way, at 17 years old, I really think we should be waiting a little while. I'm sure that she feels, but our brains aren't fully developed. We don't know.
So, at least wait to, I think, 25.
There you go. I agree with you. Or 21, but
even 20. Think about when you're 21.
Yeah, but this gender mania, you have a whole support system now where the kid's 14 and feels
you're
like a
right,
girl.
if that's what you feel like.
let's encourage her to do that. So, in my opinion,
you lose the right to compete if you're taking testosterone.
I think you have to have a standard that way. If you are going to decide to become a boy, that we all know comes with a set of responsibilities. It comes with a great deal of baggage. It's going to be difficult for you, and it's not. And so there is.
So one of the things you lose.
So our
is
job as people is to and you and I would be very careful not to ridicule this person. We try to support them.
I think
emotionally.
There's an easy solution to this. You're going on and on.
What I'm trying to say
such an easy
it doesn't
solution.
mean that you can wrestle if you choose to take testosterone.
No, but she should be with the boys. She should 100% be able to wrestle with the boys.
Yeah. Here's the other
That's
problem.
how you solve it.
But here's the problem with that. So the state has a policy which is to say that it must match your gender on your birth certificate has to match the sport you play, because you can do the reverse now, right?
Yeah, but how long ago did they make those rules? Like, we're living in a different time now.
What I'm saying
so
is
you got to at least acknowledge the transgender community, and also, okay, so it has to match female to male. Trust me, you're not going to have a huge influx of females who are actual females trying to wrestle with the men. That's never going to happen.
But if you have a,
so you're going off the exception.
What they're trying to do is also, if you have a boy, and now he's trying to become a female taking estrogen, but he still has the chromosome for a man, which gives him like a bone structure reaction time.
I get it.
Now he competes with women.
I know.
It's also an unfair advantage. So in my opinion, when this is not, it doesn't have to be, we don't have to be politically correct about it. I think that if you're going to choose to be transgender,
lose rights to compete in sports,
you have to take the responsibility that sometimes it's just, you're going to have an unfair advantage, and I don't think it's a fair.
But she doesn't have.
field.
But he won't have an unfair advantage
in
wrestling
the boys.
with boys.
In the boys,
there's no advantage.
I know what
it's
you're
a
saying.
disadvantage.
Yeah.
The only advantage is when a boy goes to female.
The only thing is when you make laws, like when the state has certain rules, you kind of have to blanket.
I know, but when did you? How long ago did they make that law? Not they weren't even thinking about transgender.
What I'm trying to say though is if your sex doesn't match your birth certificate, right? I mean, where it doesn't matter, where you can choose, you would have an unfair advantage as a boy going into women's sports.
No, I get it, B, but don't you think they have to do case by case? Because I don't think it's fair to say,
it's hard to go case by case.
Is it though? Because
not when you have laws. Because when you have laws, going case by case would create exactly this. You'd have you actually can't pass case by case laws that way. You have to have objective law.
I hear you, brother. But then so she just, by saying, all right, you actually feel like a female, or you feel like a boy trapped in a female body. Sorry, you don't get to compete in any sports now.
Unfortunately,
who's that fair to?
It comes with the territory. I would suggest. I would
That's
suggest
not fair, man.
I would suggest that if you're going to make this choice, it's going to come with a lot of baggage. We know that. And so
But that doesn't mean they can't. They
may not
take
be
away their rights.
Well, what you're doing is you're making it unfair for all those other women to wrestle. You're making it unfair for all those other competitors.
The system's
in that sport.
making it unfair because she doesn't want to compete against other girls. She wants to compete with the boys.
I understand that.
I bet you she doesn't win a match against
I understand
those
it,
boys.
but what I'm saying is that if you have to be consistent with the law.
I'm saying they need to change the law, figure things out, because when they made that law, there wasn't such an easy route to be transgender. Transgender people didn't have a voice. The gay, lesbian, bi, transgender community didn't have as much power or voice as they do now. It's a different time now.
Yeah.
So you have to acknowledge that and just can't say, oh, you're switching? Sorry, comes to territory, can't play anymore. The fuck? I feel this way, though.
You can. Because you're otherwise you're being unfair to all the other competitors. You just can't have. I know
being unfair to
you're
them,
saying
though.
case by case. You're saying case by case. One person's decision to be transgender cannot infringe upon the rights of the greater.
Let's take every.
They deserve to be protected.
Which you're not doing. Let's take every female transgender who wants to be a male.
Yeah.
And do you think they're going to have any advantage in any male sports?
No, but the opposite will be the case. Yes.
So the opposite you're going to have to figure out.
Yeah.
But for any female that wants to play male sports, so you're just going to say, well, because boys go to female have such an advantage.
Yeah,
female go to
you
boys.
have to take that into account. It wouldn't be fair. You know that Muay Thai fighter or whatever. I mean, there are certain examples where
there's an MMA fighter,
whatever it is. There are certain examples where different depending on the sport. Where you know, I just don't believe that your decision to go male or female trumps and should allow you to be 56-0 or whatever it might be in a sport. I don't think it's fair. And I think that we're asking everybody to bend over backwards.
No, they're agreeing with you. She's going. I don't want to compete with the women.
Yeah.
Put me in the boys. I know.
What I keep saying though is that if you reverse it, if you have a man who decides to be a female and now compete in female sports, he's going to have a natural advantage. Typically, depending on the sport, you have to take that into account. And what I'm saying is that if you choose, we all already know this, if you choose to go transgender and you choose to change your gender, you're going to deal with a lot of different issues, a lot. And obviously, I've always been a guy who says culture is interesting when you protect your sexual minorities, you protect people who think and act differently. I believe in all that. But it doesn't mean that you create an unfair playing field. And I don't think that we have to change everything and bend over backwards for one person, regardless of what they choose to do.
It's not one person, it's one gender. You're talking about a whole kind of community.
I know that.
So they should not. So you're down with if they decide to go from female to male, there's no more sports for you ever.
I'm sorry?
They can't play any sports. That just comes with the consequences.
I don't know. I don't know about that, man. I'm not ready to say any sports at all. I'm saying I'm looking at this as an example, and for me, I think it's unfair, and I think it would be unfair
to who?
I think it's unfair to the other competitors when you're taking testosterone, regardless of whether she wants to play with boys, and it's very unfair if you're a man who chooses to become a woman and you're taking estrogen, but you already have an advantage in size and bone structure, and you're playing in a sport and you win a bunch of stuff.
Male to female is tricky.
Yeah.
Male to female is tricky because men are bigger, obviously more athletic. If you want to argue that, please, let's do it.
But I also feel
But from female going to men, she's at such a disadvantage, or he's at such a disadvantage with the female bone structure, the testosterone, everything.
It goes back. Let's extrapolate for a second.
But I don't think you can go, well, that's part of it. I think you have to. People who are smarter than us who deal with it on a day-to-day basis needs to get together with the transgender community and figure out a plan that works for everyone. Because you can't just go part of the issue, man.
The transgender community is pretty, from what I have read and what I've heard when I've heard these people debate this. They're not. A lot of them are. I don't want to be unfair here, but the ones that I've heard who are the voices of this tend to be pretty inflexible about this. And gender is a choice, and it's not, and they try to take biology out of the choice, and that's been a huge issue. But let me extrapolate. How do you feel about this? When a lot of states you can use a bathroom that correlates with the gender of your birth.
Different animal, bro.
Well, why? Why? Because you're right.
Different animal.
But you have to be consistent. Let me tell you why. Because
but there has to be some exception when it comes to sports. You can't take away the rights. Like they're still going to be able to go to the bathroom.
It's tough to write a law that
but they're
way.
still going to be able to go to the bathroom. Now they're not going to be able to compete in sports in high school.
No. What I'm saying is that. So you think so? So because really at heart of it is this: the law has to be, when you're writing the law, you have to say. The way it has to be federal, the way the Obama administration was, you decide that you're a female. That way you can, if you decide and you feel like a female, regardless of even hormones, you can use a female bathroom.
That's stupid.
But that's part of the law.
I know, and I get that. And there's laws that are terrible, and we know this. I think that if you're transgender and you've had the surgery and you're on, so let's say Brendan, I want to become a female. And I go, I'm going to start wearing a wig, start wearing a dress. I'm not allowed in the women's bathroom. Now, down the road, I get rid of my penis. I have tits. I've done the correct procedures where I'm fully in. I deserve the right to go to the women's bathroom. I think if you have a dick, I don't care how you feel. If you have a dick, you should not be allowed in the women's bathroom. I think you have to make that major step to the next level to deserve that right. And I'll take heat about that.
And I would agree with you on that. And the transgender community would totally disagree with you on that.
I agree.
And I agree with you on that.
I know.
And maybe.
Because like Caitlyn Jenner talks about all women's rights, but she's a Republican and she doesn't even believe in gay marriage. Okay. And then you won't cut off your dick.
Doesn't she still have? Yeah, she still has a dick.
Okay.
And she won Woman of the Year. Get the fuck out of here.
So let me get this straight. You're preaching all that stuff over here, but you won't go, you feel like a woman, but you won't do. Most women don't have a dick. And so
all women don't have a dick.
But you're scared to cut off. Why is that? Because if you actually felt 100% like a woman, you would cut that thing off. That thing would be torture.
I agree with you 100%. So she got Woman of the Year, I guess.
That's just for ratings. You know what I'm saying? Like either you're all in, then you deserve the rights. But if you're balanced on both, you're playing both sides. I actually
agree with you on that. That's a good point.
You can't play both sides. You have to be all in. And then I agree, you get all the rights.
I can just see people going, yeah, now you're saying that a woman.
Know.
How about the woman who was posing as a black woman? Yeah, remember?
Rachel
and now
Dolezal.
She's been fired. She can't get a job.
Yeah,
and she was the head of the NCAA
and doing great work for African Americans.
Yeah. And then she's so white. Meanwhile, she's now calling herself trans black. And she's saying that race is fluid as well. Get the fuck out of here. And this is what happens when you don't have certain standards, because now we have no way to talk about anything. You do have to have, like, there is biology, I'm sorry, plays a role.
This
is how we get crazy, right?
Crazy, but with this, they have to fix something, because it's not right to deny her the experience of playing high school sports. It's just not, because she doesn't have an advantage. She will get probably beat by every man.
How about she gets to compete, but it doesn't count?
Why wouldn't it count?
Because she's taking testosterone and playing.
You're saying with the girls?
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Well, it's also not fair that she's taking testosterone and beating the shit out of all these girls.
She doesn't want to do that, though. She's like, I don't want to do this.
But she is doing it.
But it's the only way. It's either that or nothing. I agree with that. I'm like, well, fuck, man. Wrestling's my passion. The only way I can wrestle is by fucking wrestling these girls. Otherwise, I don't get to wrestle.
How about I said this? Hey, if you want to wrestle with the women, you have to stay a woman, and you can't take drugs right now that are making you more male. Does that work? There you go.
Here's the fucking solution. Okay, if you want to wrestle, let's wait till you're out of high school to start doing this. If I'm the parent, I'm going, I realize that. If you do this, you're never going to be allowed to compete.
That's fair. Isn't that fair? That's reasonable.
Fair. Why can't you wait? Are you going on scholarship to
and let
Oklahoma
the kid
State?
wait?
Probably
Let the kid give the kid time for her brain
let
to
develop. When you were 21, are you 21? 21. I have tattoos I fucking hate. Let alone cut off my dick.
I was the biggest idiot on the planet at 25.
Okay? At 28, I was a moron. Go back and watch some of my UFC highlights. Go watch some of my interviews.
It's true, dude.
My first fight, I thought I wanted to fight Frank Mir and Josh Barnett. I'm sure if I was transgender at the time, I'd say, yeah, cut off my dick. Paying 4 years later, I'm like, what the fuck?
I know.
No, I don't feel like that anymore. You go through phases.
We know that the brain is not fully developed. We know the frontal cortex. We know teenagers are way more impulsive. They have different brains. They're not developed.
Now, I'm not saying some people aren't born in the wrong body and the wrong wiring. I get that. But if she waited 4 years? I'm with Bryan. This is a great example. If she waited 4 years and got to experience the high school wrestling experience like all the other kids, is that going to kill her?
Right. No. And
what's more important to you, too?
There you go. That's another.
Life
is choices.
She's going to say
life is choices.
She should be able to do both. I get that, but the way the system is, you're not going to be able to do both.
Yeah, right.